Welcome back, everyone. Round 11 of the AusCycling Esports Club series. We're going pretty well into the series so far with the Watopia Masters still reigning champions. So welcome again to everyone. And today, back again, 2 weeks in a row with Anna, who is, of course, producer slash commentator. Anna, how are you today?
Pretty good. I'm just out making sure I've got the riders in view. They have just come out of the pens. I'm quite excited. Katie is busy on the ground in Wollongong, as I know you are too, Jethro. It is huge for cycling in Australia right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going off, and I feel for the Europeans who've come across to Wollongong because they would have been expecting a little bit of sun, but it's actually been raining all day today, so kind of perfect conditions for a bit of Zwift.
Now, I've got to ask before we get into the racing, what happened with Annemiek van Vleuten in the team time trial, and is that going to
Oh.
impact her race?
It certainly will. I mean, we were in the media pen watching that, and the whole tent basically gasped at once. But I understand that it was a bolt in her rear mech that snapped as she was putting load through it, and that's what cost her. So she's fractured her elbow, but
Ooh.
it's not displaced. So she's going to try and start. And if we know Annemiek, she's going to send it on Mount Kira, whether she's got a broken elbow or fresh as a daisy.
She is tough as nails. Okay, we've got images coming in through from the race, so we'll jump straight down. Course tonight is the Knickerbocker on New York. New York is a very tough course on Zwift. No areas of flat, it's all up and down. And this one, at about halfway through, after the sprint segment, they've got a big KQOM. So this is going to burn the legs, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is a really tough course. It's a polarizing course with everyone that rides with. You either love it or you hate it. And one of which where you can sort of play around with the power on the trainer a little bit. I always find when you're going into all these rollers and these dips and rises, you can kind of pedal into them at the bottom of the roller and save a little bit of watts over the top as well. So experienced Swifters will know how to ride this course really carefully.
And I do know we are following Zwift racing at the moment, but I can't not ask you. And I know people will really care about this as they'll be watching what's happening over at the World Champs. What's been your highlight, Jethro, of the trip so far? I mean, you've had so much content coming through. I've been watching it every day, but for you, what's been your highlight?
I have to say the highlight was probably talking to some of the riders in the flesh, some of the European riders. The Aussies I've seen quite a lot, which has been really cool. But chatting with riders such as Lotte Kopecky was really, really cool. And riders like that, riders who I've looked at, like for example, a Paris-Roubaix, I'm picturing Lotte Kopecky drilling it on the cobbled sectors, hands on the hood, hands on the tops, just like launching it for Longo Borghini, and to chat with her on the first day after a time trial was amazing. And yeah, just the atmosphere, everyone just going crazy on the side of the roads, watching Remco and Stefan Kung, today Pogacar, and seeing the polarizing styles of how they get prepared for the time trial. Stefan Kung and Remco were, I mean, you could have hit them with an egg and they would not have flinched, but before their TT, and Pogacar, he was high fiving and fist bumping the crowd right before he went onto his start line. So the riders were certainly had different sort of prep methods.
Oh, that he looked like a very happy man. That was awesome to see. Ah, well, you keep the content coming, Jethro, because I know there's a lot of people watching it and loving what you're
Yeah.
doing. So keep it up. It's been probably a highlight for me just to check out each morning what's happening in your stories and seeing all the cool
Yeah.
conversations you had. So good job on that. Do want to just say, I just, as they're racing, got a live message come through from Jessica Bemrose. She said that she's actually been training with the army for the last 5 weeks. This is her first race back. But she said Adam on the men's side, her husband, is the one to watch tonight. So we can keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, that's an interesting little tip. I mean, the Ben Rose husband and wife duo, they are powerhouses of the Zwift Australian Racing League, that's for sure. And Adam, he's kind of got the full package when it comes to Zwift. He's got a super strong sprint and a pretty high sort of threshold power as well. When we look at the 20 minutes, we can see him there with that really neat looking jersey too, and the sunglasses. But yeah, Adams, if he gets over this hill, which we talked about, the KQOM, it's a pretty filthy climb. Your avatar probably doesn't go slower on any other course, maybe the radio tower, than this climb. Hey, Anna.
It's I actually de-essed the New Zealand women's team in the World Championship Esport last year, which did go up this climb, and I know that they have to do it at 100% trainer difficulty. So I went out and tried it myself at 100%. I got down to 30 RPM and then had to stop and get off the trainer. So I know that this hill is like, it is hard work. I don't think anyone will be running 100% tonight. I wouldn't advise it. But I mean, we saw that Aussie team in the Esport World Champs on this climb was phenomenal. So
Oh,
yeah, this is going to be great to watch.
yeah, the Aussie team. That was an epic, epic setup. Who do we have up there? Bree Vine finishing 10th place. We had Freddie Ovett, Sam Hill, and of course Jay Vine, the Esport World Championships, who may be going to UAE, the rumor I've
Oh,
heard. But
oh.
yes, I think there's a bit of cash getting flying around there, and good on him. Hope he takes it. But look, Anna, we've got a little bit of an attack already from Mr. Jay Fowler, and he's been super active over the last few weeks, throwing his weight around and not afraid to attack either.
Yeah, isn't he? He's been a great rider to watch. He just
Yeah.
gets off the front and he's got the very he's always got that very bright bike, so he's easy to pick out. He's obviously just a breakaway specialist. This course, I can say from racing around New York yesterday in the Zwift Racing League, it is not easy to have a breakaway with all these downhills that the pack just tends to catch up, but they've just let him go. I think maybe he's just wanting to get up that climb as quick as possible, get away from everyone. Do you think the pack's going to catch him? And they're 8 seconds back now. I see Mitchell Rue here. He's just gone back to the pack. He's been given up the chase and he's going to get caught here. But yeah, here we go. Are they going to get him? I mean, 6 seconds now. Yeah, he's right up there. You can see him there.
Yeah, they can see him. They just someone surging and closing the gap. I mean, there's only about four k until we complete the sprint right before, well, basically into the base of the climb. It's like, the worst place you'd ever want to have a sprint if you're trying to get the best time on that climb. But he's having a go, and it's. I think when you get over 5 seconds, it's a significant advantage. And there's guys trying to sort of chip across. Bradman there as well. Christo Ball, the Oracle, he's super strong. But yeah, trying to split it up. This is going to hurt a lot of the riders who are just hoping to save a bit of powder before the climb. There might have been a few riders in the bunch that might just hang on over the top of the front group, but a little flurry like this is going to sting them and just make it split up a little bit more on the climb.
Yeah, looking at Bradson here, this is it's a tricky part of the course because they're going to go up here. It's a really sort of long, slogged out climb, but then it hits a little bit of a dip again, and this is where the pack catches up, and then they hit another sort of climb before a longish downhill before they start hitting that sprint. Now that sprint looks like it is about approximately 7.5k, so they're about 2 kilometers away from the sprint, and Bradson here is just going for it. They just want to like break up the pack. I saw there was a lot of chat in the pens at the start about the fact that they people just wanted to get out and make it pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's what we want to see. Fowler really had to work hard to get back into the wheel as Bradson steamed past. I mean, he sort of went past him at around 6 watts per kilo, and Fowler was just doing around 4, looking maybe to ease up a bit, and he had to accelerate back over 6, and it took him a while to get in the wheel, but now he has, and if Christo Ball, who's just behind them now, we might see him get on screen very shortly, there he is. Now we've got a pretty powerful group of 3, and the bunch is 7 seconds back, and I don't know if there's enough firepower in the bunch, and of course the Group 2 syndrome, to bring them back. I think we might see this gap. It could grow out 8 seconds now, Anna.
Yeah, this is looking pretty dangerous. They're just coming into what I said before is that long downhill. And now this is where I made a mistake, is that you've got to make a breakaway with more than one rider on this course for it to work. Because 3 here now at the front, we've got Bradson, Fowler and Ball. Crystal Ball he's always lighting it up, isn't he? But it's now there's 3 of them. If they do the smart, like it looks like they're doing, taking a few little sneaky turns on the front, keep the pace high, they could have this. And then also you're looking at a chase pack that isn't huge. and it's going to be harder. They're not going to
Mm.
have that downhill benefit. And if we're looking at fastest through segment for the sprint, I think this group at the front could get it with 3 riders.
Yeah, definitely. They're really working very well at the front. You can see Fowler there just doing sort of two crystal ball, 3 watts per kilo, while the front rider rides the sort of 5 watts. It looks like they're hitting perfect sort of execution of drafting on the Zwift as well on the downhill here. That is really, really good and a sign of some experienced riders up front. But I mean, I'm looking back in that chasing group. I want to see Adam Bemrose. I mean, look at the numbers. It's classic. It's what we see all the time when a strong group goes away. If they all just sort of pulled through a little bit, they'd be able to bring the gap through. But Connor Reardon, Adam Bemrose, they're the strongest, and they'll be the ones that really want to get out of that group.
And Fowler's going for it. He's seen the sprint banner coming up already, and he's just going all in. This is a very tricky sprint to time. It's got a little kick here that he's going up, kind of goes to 1%, and then as soon as the sprint starts right here, it's all downhill. So it really makes more benefit if you're in a pack, but these guys are
Mm.
completely separated out. There's no draft benefit whatsoever.
Yeah, they obviously know the sprint quite well because as Fowler goes through that sprint zone there with Crystal Ball behind him, he didn't quite go full noise on that sprint. He went over the top of that a little kicker, and then on the downhill was when he really ramped up the speed. So let's see how they
Oof,
go now. Alan here launching some big power numbers. Look how fresh the riders are, launching up to
jeez.
14, 15 watts per kilo straight out of the booth too. Super fast and I guess we'll see who's got the fastest through time there on the green. The women are not far away from their sprint too, about a kilometre.
Looks
And
like,
this might be a pretty
yeah.
spicy sprint too, with a
Looks
big
like that
group.
was Alan who took it out on the men's side. And we saw that because he got into that fast Zwift style sprint as we're watching the women now approaching the same section of the course, but where they get right up and it looks like they're almost eating their handlebars. We're seeing McGowan going pretty early here. So maybe there was a little bit of a mistake. She kind of went early and then backed off a lot. And McGarry, this is the one that we saw
Oh,
last
yeah.
week, right? She's got some, what's
Yes.
it called? Crystal legs? Is that a good thing? Is that the one that means you've got good legs? Crystal
Oh,
legs?
you mean she's got diamonds in the legs?
Yes, that's it. Diamonds in the
That's,
legs.
that's what they say. The diamonds in the legs. We've got McGowan representing maybe the Republic of WA. Uh, but they're just in the chat there. I don't think, does Kate know if there's a sprint? But who's going to challenge McGarry? She has got a little bit of a gap. She's
Oh,
gone through the sprint, but it didn't really
Jess,
look like they contested it.
strange. Jess Bemmers came through pretty quick there. I think they were timing it for that fastest time segment. Jess might have got that. She did. 10 seconds for that sprint with McGarry, 600th of a second behind her, and Kate Spicey a second behind that. Do you know what I think that was? Is I think that they, from the chat that I saw on the screen earlier, I think a few of them are saving their legs for the climb because, as we can see on the men's side, straight into it with Adam Benrose on the front.
Yeah, that's right. I think they're definitely, especially with a group like that, with a mix of A and B, a lot of those B riders will want to keep their sort of powder fresh for that climb. They'll be trying to hang in and complete and finish with a bunch. So I can certainly understand them wanting to save their legs as they hit the bottom of the climb now. And yes, the men,
Oh, look at
we've got
that.
Adam
This
Benro.
Kate
Yeah,
Spicey.
he's
That's why. Sorry, Jethro. I just saw Kate Spicey going to the head. This is why she didn't sprint. Is because as soon as it went uphill, she sprinted off to the front. They were already dropping riders left, right, and centre off the back of the pack. So great tactics
that's a
there from
great.
Spicey.
Yeah, she used a power up too. I think. I think she had the aero power up to get herself a little extra separation from the bunch. And what a great view that is on the left. Just seeing them strung out there, the riders just trying to stay in the draft. And there's not a lot of draft at this sort of percentage as well. And we're getting a sort of front group of 4 as well. This is awesome. And the men looks like we've got a front group of 3. We've got Feathers. It's still
Oof.
our original. Well, this is Adam Benrose now
Yeah.
at the front.
He's dropping that feather
Wow.
power up, which I think, I mean, it is on the steepest part of the course, but it tells me that he's in trouble. And I'm seeing Crystal Ball now hitting some huge numbers, 7 watts per kg. But Reardon
Whoa.
here, Reardon coming through as well at 8 watts. They've dropped Bemrose. So unfortunately, Bemrose, I
Wow.
thought that when he dropped the feather that he was
Good
in a bit of
call.
trouble. And
Good
these guys are
call. Channing feather.
drilling it off the front.
Wow. It was a bit like Bolka Mollema, the seagull feather. the sky sharks here in Australia. They're dangerous animals, and the front two here are looking very good. And I tell you what, the Gold Coast Cycling Club will be very happy to see Ben Rose up there, both Ben Roses, because in the club standings, I think they're actually sitting in perhaps fourth place, no, fifth place. So these could be some very handy points if the Ben Roses flying the flag for the Gold Coast Cycling Club can get up there. And it looks like Ben Rose is coming back now.
Oh, that is some gutsy riding. He on that flat section just took it up. This is the really steep bit to the line. This is where I remember
Yeah.
in the Esport World Championships, Jay Vine just crushing
Oh,
his
remember
competition
the
up
finish?
this
It
bit.
was
Oh, it was
so
amazing,
close.
wasn't it? Such a
Yeah,
good race,
yeah.
and you can just see how much you can gain. Already they've dropped Ben Rose again off the bat. He is struggling on those climbs, but I think he'll get there on that downhill. I think he'll get it, and looks like
It was
Crystal
a
Ball has taken fastest time up that climb, so he's gathering a huge haul of points tonight.
Yeah, yeah, big chance for Adam Penrose to get back on. He is a heavier rider, I think, from memory, around the 80 odd kilo mark, which is probably why he was able to come back a little bit as the gradient went back down to sort of 6-7% as well. So he'll be getting that aero tuck, which you can hit on these segments here as it gets pretty steep on the downhill. I mean, really cool sort of visuals here on this course. Really cool. What they need to do is put up some. We need to see some advertising, some
I
banners in the
know.
background in the city. There's opportunities there. Perhaps the Pressure Podcast to get on there, but Memrise here is in the aero tuck, knows how to has to Zwift, and it looks like he will get back on, but the front two are
They're
pushing on.
pushing really hard. I mean, they're still 3, 4 seconds back. He's just in sight. If you just turn around on this glass road, you can see him with that blue Tron coming from the distance. I'm going to go to
Yeah,
full screen of the women's race as well, because we've got quite a mano a mano battle between Jess Bemrose and McGarry here. So McGarry hasn't, I don't think, been tested like she is getting tested tonight by Jessica Bemrose, who I've got to say, 5 weeks away, and this is her intro back. Phew, she's doing well.
yeah, they must have a couple of ergos down at the army barracks. As we're seeing, well, McGarry, yeah, I think she's being matched on a few terrains. As she is now just trying to push forward a little bit here, McGarry trying to distance Jessica, and they're both in the 6 watts per kilo range. This is a big attack. Now, we'll see if she can get a little distance here. Jess maybe holding back a bit to see if she can close it on this steep section. 16%. Both riders up over 6-7 watts per kilo. Jess is holding
Oh,
on. This is impressive from McGarry, who's really trying to drop her. But Jess is going to get in the draft, and Jess does have a decent kick herself. Is she going to get round? Probably not enough road. McGarry sticks it in a gear again, and here comes Ben Rose over the top. Is she going to throw the hammer now? But it looks like she's a little. Both riders really
look at that
emptied the
heart
tank there.
rate.
Oh,
195. She is on,
194.
Jethro. She is.
Wow,
There's
wow.
nothing in the tank to do a solo breakaway there. As we're back to Spicy as well. McGarry took the fastest time out there. Spicy's just pushing ahead now of Howard. I remember these guys having a bit of a battle last week as well. So Howard doing great here from the B categories. She's about 9 seconds ahead. Oh, so hard for Phil Zarano. You can just see them in the distance cresting the hill. And this one's hard because if they start going down while she's still on this bit, there's no way she can get back on.
Yeah, absolutely true, it's good to see Spicy. She's done it again this week with her kit selection.
Oh,
She
Jethro, I'm not
she's done it
joking.
again.
When we were on the men's race, I was busy trying to find out who is this rider in this kit. Every week, she is knocking it out of the park. I was actually going to try and find her details to message her after this and say,
Yeah,
spot on. Like, and not only this, I
okay.
don't know if you know this, Jethro, the two-tone Tron. So if you look at her
Yes, she's
Tron,
done
oh,
very well. I don't know what kit that is. Poxy, Roxy.
it's a
That is
Roxy, which is
a
a surf brand, right?
special. That's a special unlock. I don't know how she got that kit, but I mean, last week she was in the teal blue number, I believe, a
Oh,
baby blue setup. But this is something else.
yeah, I need to get it. I do a podcast every Friday morning, and part of it is the fashion on Zwift. I call it fashion in the field, and I will be getting a picture of her in this kit to
Yeah.
highlight. This is
Yeah.
above and beyond. Phenomenal effort there. Looking at the men, Adam Bemrose has caught up to that group, and they are now almost a minute ahead of a chasing Fowler.
Wow. Wow. So, yeah, it looks like we've got this strong group of three. They know they're going to go to the line together, and the line are going to come from these three. Connor Reardon, super strong. He's got great numbers, at least on his Zwift power, but this second half of the Club Sports E series, we haven't really. I don't think I've really seen him, up the front as much as I would have with the numbers that he has. So perhaps just sort of getting closer to normal form as we approach the really nice months for riding too. You generally see the Zwift racing kick up. So it's good to see him at the front here. Ben Rose looking very good as well. And Christo Ball too. I mean, he took out the win last week from memory. And he's going to be, I mean, we've got, a couple of sprint lords too. Adam and Christo Ball both got a solid sprint. So we might see Reardon trying to attack these guys late, I think, as he just sort of lays off the wheel here.
Yeah, and it
A bit
looks
of
as
chat as
though
well.
there's a lot of chatter going on in this men's race. It's always quite funny to watch. They've only got just under 9 kilometers to go, so not super long. I'm just wondering how these three are going to play it. With it's still it's a reasonably long distance for the three of them to be working together. They're not going to. They're laying it out there that they've got to get rid of Bemrose. So Bemrose is the sprinter, obviously, and they're not happy that he caught on the climb. I don't know if they knew that Bemrose could see that comment, but that's going to fire him up, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Just, I mean, what can you do if two riders want to, in their best interest, to drop you? I mean, it doesn't really matter if they say it. You're just going to have to react. But oh man, Crystal Ball, the way he's been throwing down some of the sprints, I thought he might be able to match Ben Rose. But I guess we'll see. We might see a few attacks here. And we are seeing the power rise here on this little kicker. This 10% rise. Really good use of the power accelerating into it as well, rather than when you hit the gradient. It's often too late there on a pinch like that. But Christo Ball over the top here. Connor Reardon chasing. And Ben Rose just making Reardon sort of close the gap, which is smart from him. He's going to just lay off the wheel there. And, well, I guess there's a bit of a gap now. So this will be very interesting. Will Ben Rose come through and pull a turn for Connor?
Oh, I know. This is what do you do in this kind of situation when you know that Bemrose is the sprinter? You've got one rider going off the front. I mean, being Reardon, you don't help Bemrose get back up to the front, right? I guess what you'd want to do is kind of sit on like he's doing now and then just put in a big effort to get him off your wheel and then try and work up the front with Crystal Ball. But yeah, I don't think this is playing out very well for the three at all. This is when you see in the real world in cycle races where you've got a group up the front who've made it away and they start playing, silly buggers there at the front, and yeah, it's kind of game over. They're not exactly working together, but I guess they've got a minute, right, on the chase pack, so they can do this.
Yeah, they've got plenty of wiggle room to muck around, that's for sure. They don't have to worry about that second group, but the good thing about having a little sprint in your pocket like Bemrose does is you can often jump across those gaps really, really easily, but you want to keep those bullets really, really, close to your chest, I suppose.
He's just,
And huge numbers, they are. Throwing them around. Bemrose is absolutely
yeah,
launching it here.
he's going
Wow, he's having a go.
10 watts a kg he was holding there for a while, then dropped back to 8 and then back up to 10. I mean, he is going bananas off the front. I mean, really high heart rate, a relatively low cadence. He's just grinding this out. And I'm so surprised that these guys are even able to stick with him. He is motivated. I mean, Jess, who messaged me before, she obviously knew that he was feeling good for tonight. And was it diamonds in his legs? I got it right that time. But they're not giving up. Crystal Ball, I think Crystal Ball just wants the win. He always seems to do pretty well in the latter half of the races.
Yeah, he does. I do like what Bemrose is doing. He's the heaviest of the riders. He's got the highest raw absolute power. So he was trying to make his mark on that sort of downhill section of the course as well, on the flatter segment. And I like using attack as a form of defense against two riders who obviously want to shell you. But now we're seeing a counter, and a super smart and well-timed counter as well from Christo Ball. Haven't seen a lot from Connor Reardon yet. We wonder if he's sort of hurting a little bit. But Christo Ball just sort of tempoing over the top now, backing it off a touch with the Watts. They're back together with about 5 or 6 Ks to go now, and it looks like Ben Rose is going once again.
Oh,
Perhaps he's just on the tuck, and Reardon, their slightly smaller rider as well, is going to have to work, especially if you're a lighter rider. These downhills can be really tricky. If you're in the 60 kilo mark, they're actually quite difficult, some of these steep downhills.
I think they've just got to be so disappointed that they didn't shell Bemrose on that climb because they could
Yeah.
see he was dropping, and the fact that I think that's why they were riding so hard on the downhill to try and keep him away,
Yes.
because this is why he's made the back half of this race so unpleasant for this group of three by just putting in all these efforts. And Jess just messaged me again. You can see her on the left hand side. She's sticking here with McGarry. It looks like a much more sedate pace, which is nice for the two of them. They're just making it really building the tension for the sprint at the end, as opposed to Bemrose here, who just dropped off a little bit from the back. But she said that he's motivated, so we're right. He wants to take the big W tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a great period for Australian-based cyclists because this is when we start to hit a really good form. There's lots of Zwift racing on at the moment. Of course, we've got the Zwift Racing League is back on the second half of the season. We've got the Zwift Grand Prix as well. So some of the top Zwifters are really hitting their form because not only is there some really solid and quite prestigious racing on at the moment, but also the weather's starting to get really good. So we're getting that outdoor training in as well. So the numbers and a lot of the riders are super motivated. And yeah, I mean, Adam Bemrose we're getting the hot tip here from Jess while in the breakaway. Really like that while she's just on the front as well. That's a pretty good skill. But look, there's a chance for both Bemroses to take the W today. And yeah, I'm really interested to see a bit of a sprint war between Jess and McGarry because she could match her on that steep climb.
She could. I mean, sprint wise, though, McGarry she's been almost unbeatable in those sprints. I mean, she hits some insane watts per kg. So, yeah, Jess has got her work cut out for her tonight to beat McGarry here. And McGarry's putting in a bit of a dig here. You'd want her to do this. You want her to tire herself out, and Jess is just going to sit on her wheel and take the choo-choo train all the way to the finish line. But I've got to say, I love you, Jess, but I think McGarry, she might have that sprinting edge on you.
Yeah, I mean, Jess is pretty experienced too, and we've seen Jess take wins in the Zwift racing. Well, I guess the Esports and so the club and the NRS as well. We've seen her take some pretty big victories, but yeah, McGarry's probably proved herself as a formidable opponent. Interesting to see if McGarry's been contacted by any of the sort of higher Zwift teams as well, because with a sprint like that and her ability, I mean, she'd be a great asset to any of the sort of top Zwift Racing League teams.
Yeah, I'm just writing a note down here. Maybe I'll contact her for our team. We'll
Oh,
be racing in the Grand Prix and always need a good sprinter. So that's a good call out. Although I think for the Aussies, the racing starts at about 4 in the morning. So it's a very early start to the Saturday for you guys.
It actually reminds me on this course when they had the World Championships. Poor Sarah Giganti got up, I think, at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 in the morning. Yeah, she was just coming back from injury, and she signed up for the race, and I think she said she lasted 6 kilometres. She'd barely
Oh.
ridden her bike, and she got up at 2, little caffeine gel, and back to bed.
Oh man, that's not good. I mean, I think for the Kiwis, it was pretty late. I remember de-essing at some odd time for the crew, but yeah, it definitely wasn't 3 in the morning. Now we're looking at just hitting the 20K number. The race is about 23 kilometers or just under. And these three are still together. They've extended their lead on the group back, though. If you look at the chasing group here with Fowler, he's leading. He's trying to make a little bit of a breakaway, but they're already a minute 40. Just from this rolling section of terrain off the hill. So these guys at the front man, they've been exchanging blows.
Yeah, they have. They're still pushing it. I mean, you see the numbers up over 5 watts per kilo. They're all really going for it and keeping the pace really high. I mean, oddly sort of high. Crystal Ball just trying maybe to sting the legs a little bit of Bemrose and working him over a touch. But out of these three, and I mean, who do you think's looking good in this situation?
I've got to say, I would love to see a Bemrose 1-2, men and women's side. I think that would just be really nice to see. So I'll have those as my picks. I'll go with Adam Bemrose on the men and Jess Bemrose on the women. I think that'd be great. They're probably biking right next to each other right now, so they can have a little celebratory glass of champagne after their race together. Who are you picking?
I'd like to see Jess take a little victory over McGarry. That would be really cool. And for the men here, I'm hoping Connor Reardon has saved a bit of energy for a late attack, and just a couple of seconds of hesitation from Christo Bull and Ben Rose to let him stay away. So I think Connor Reardon, he's going to launch a move in the next sort of maybe 800 or 900 meters.
Okay, let's see what happens. So I'm looking at the finish line now. It is a bit of a downhill, and then it goes into a real sharp climb. Now, I just saw on the women's side, because I've got the screen up there, that McGarry is pulling some big punches into Jess Bemrose. She keeps just putting massive attacks in, like Adam's doing here on the men's side. But she used her
Yep.
feather. Now that is not good because the finish line does have a little
Right.
kick, and you really want that feather. So I think that puts Jess Bemrose a little bit ahead. Just tactically knows her Zwift game. We'll go back to the men's full screen. We'll head back to the women's after that because it looks like things are with what 1,500 meters to go. It's getting pretty intense out there.
Yep, and here comes the big move from Connor Reid, and just like I thought was happening, really good timing. After Adam Benrose launched it as well, Christo Ball's going to be the one to close this gap down, and he is throwing down the sprint to get back into the wheel. But this is a searing attack from Connor Reid, and 7 watts per kilo. He launched at 10. He is keeping the power high. 600 watts he's rolling at the moment, 72 RPM as well. He's absolutely dieseling this one. And Crystal Ball hasn't quite closed it, but now's the chance. He's going to get in the draft,
Oh,
and I think Crystal Ball is going to shut this one down. Uses a feather power up, really well timed. A chance here for Crystal Ball to go over the top now of Connor, who is not letting up. 600 watts. He's obviously out of the seat right now, maybe at 70 watts or 70
oh,
RPM. And here comes Crystal Ball. Is he going to get him over the
no, he's
line? He's
gonna
got
get
the
it.
momentum, and he's going to get him by 2 lengths. What an effort and
Oh.
timing of the feather. The feather power up, just perfect. As soon as he got in the draft, waited for that gradient to kick up and got him just on the line. But a really brave attack from Connor Reardon. And now the women are approaching the line as well with about 2.5 Ks to go.
That was I actually thought potentially he just had mucked that up by going just I think he wasn't going to catch. Looking at it, we had Reardon here. I'm just looking at the replay. I'll pull that back up. We had Reardon go so early, and then looking at Crystal Ball, I thought here because he sat back down in the saddle and then he kind of went again. And Reardon, he had nothing. His watts went to zero
He had
before he even got to the line, and Bemrose there just coming through. So, wow, that's quite the finish. That was some. I feel sorry for people who go early because I love it. I love that they're trying to really attack it up, but yeah, he got caught right on the line. How devastating. Women's race now.
Yeah.
McGarry, Bemmers, they're about 3 kilometers to go. As we're watching Fowler on the right hand side, he's in about sixth place. Got a big sprint here from Campbell and Stevenson. With Campbell going early now, will Stevenson be able to catch back on?
Yeah, this would be very interesting now. A chance from it's always a little bit of momentum as they hit that downhill dip into this gradient, but Campbell's got a pretty solid gap here. Stevenson's a little bit behind, and Campbell's pushing super hard, hits this gradient, gets out of the seat again, still over 700 watts. Huge power, and he did very well there to get over the top of this little section here and just nab, is it fourth or fifth place there
Yeah.
for
Fourth place, I
for
think. Yeah.
Campbell. But yeah, he did very well. It's a good ride here from and here we see Ben
Emma's up
Rose
to
is shooting
six. She was up to
a
6 watts
little
a
attack.
kg. Yep.
Yep,
But
a little
McGarry
cheeky.
right on her. Right on her. I think Bemmer's attacked on a little bit of a downhill, which probably wasn't the best idea as McGarry's into that super tuck. Man, these guys have just been exchanging some blows, and I just wonder if Jess Bemrose is trying to break McGarry. Maybe she just does think that McGarry's got the better sprint.
Perhaps she's just trying to sting the legs a little bit with some little short, sharp accelerations because no one's really been able to test McGarry out. We don't know if she's got any sort of weaknesses in this A grade field, but so far she's been able to match every attack so far, but she hasn't been able to shake Ben Rose either. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. They're approaching about a kilometre and a bit to go. McGarry putting a little dig on the downhill. I mean, a little bit of wasted energy here. Ben Rose in the draft. And they might back the Watts off here as they do. And yes, I mean, McGarry, Ben Rose, it's going to be about timing if Ben Rose is going to challenge for this sprint, Anna.
Yeah, I think, and I know Bemrose knows the Zwift game really well, but I feel like McGarry has kind of grown to know it a lot over this series. And you can see here they're just riding side by side. It's this is where you get really nervous. I get really nervous where you're just like, this comes down to tactics, and it can be terrible if you just really don't quite get it right. They're pushing some high watts though. I saw them hitting around 6. Not too long to go. They're going to take this left-hander like we saw in the men's just before. Is anyone going to go early? We're seeing McGarry now up to 7 watts.
Geez, she is launching. Yeah, she's definitely sort of ramping it up a little bit as well. I wonder if anyone's got a power up. If Jess has got an aero or perhaps a draft boost power up, I mean, it's a perfect sort of sprint approach for a draft power up as well. They get this downhill, really nice bit of speed here. They're up to 54 k's an hour. Here comes McGarry, little bit of a sting. They're kind of drag racing now. Now, it looks like Ben Rose has opened up her sprint. So has McGarry, and look at the gap. Ben Rose staying in touch in the draft. McGarry's got this big power. Ben Rose gaining. She's starting to gain. Is she going to go over the top? Here comes Ben Rose.
Ben Rose. Wow.
McGarry. Impressive. What a sprint. And Jess, she was talking up Adam, but it was the wife.
Wow.
The queen of the Ben Rose Foundation there who took away McGarry. That was so impressive, Anna.
We're going to watch that again because, wow, that I did not see that. I saw when McGarry jumped up and she was hitting 14 watts. I thought, nah, game over. There's no way Jess is going to get onto that. Look at this. I mean, yeah, up to 12 watts. Bemrose, though, this is what I mean about the tactics. Got straight on a wheel and never let that gap go. And look at that. You see McGarry there, way more power than Bemrose had. And faded.
Yes. Look at that. Amazing. I mean, perhaps, Anna, it was the longest sprint that got McGarry, because that was quite a long sprint. That was around 20 seconds.
Yeah. And I think
so perhaps
Bemrose just was patient. She stuck right on that wheel, and you'd start to get worried that the gap was going to get bigger and bigger. And it's that little hill, that kicker, that gets the sprinters, because they've laid it out too early and they hit it like we saw in the men's, and right on the line you get past, because it is so hard trying to sprint on those little bit of a climb. So wow, that was impressive. Great job from Jess Bemrose. Man, she's been training hard over these 5 weeks. That sprint was top notch.
That's right. I did see actually a little tent down here in Wollongong in the race village as Kate Spicy takes 3rd place. I did see a little tent for joining the Army and the Armed Forces. So I think I might wander over there and just sign up and say, look, I heard this is pretty good for your Zwift development, and I'm going to get stuck into that. But that was actually a really exciting race. Actually, 2 weeks in a row, we've had some cracking racing, Anna, and we may have seen how to crack McGarry in a sprint is to go long.
Yes, exactly. I think that was right. And we are just watching. We'll watch these last 2 B women come in. We've got Howard and Falzerano, and they've just both dropped their feathers at a really bad time. I think one dropped it and the other panicked. But here they go. This is a big sprint to the line. Falzerano holding off Howard, but I think Howard might come in with her feather lasting a touch longer. Oh, these finishes are extremely tight. I actually think Falzerano's got it.
She does. She's kicking again. They're just saving the kick now. But here comes Howard with a little extra spice on the left-hand side. Is she going to get across it? Falzerano. I
This
think
has
my
been phenomenal. This is great
wow.
racing. Wow, Jethro, that was a good course. I like that. It was short, sweet, and a lot of action.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really love an uphill finish. I think it just adds a little bit to the sprint as well, because it kind of drags it out a bit. And as that gradient kicked up, when we saw McGarry versus Bemrose, that was where we saw Bemrose just start to edge closer. And as a Zwifter, when you're sprinting and you see your avatar just starting to pull back, that rider in front, you just find an extra gear
Yeah.
versus when it's the other way around, right? You see yourself losing ground, you start to fall away. So to see Jess to beat McGarry, who we thought was unbeatable,
Ah,
that was amazing.
yeah, and she's pretty pumped. She's messaging me again saying that she is very stoked with that result, as she should be. Maybe Adam will have to shout the drinks tonight or buy Jess a coffee tomorrow because she took it out. She delivered for that side of the family, and yeah, impressed. That all those sprints were the same. People getting caught right on the line and overturned. So yeah, loved it. And Jethro, what have you got coming up this weekend?
Well, this weekend, of course, we've got all the road races are starting here in Wollongong. So we've got the junior racing tomorrow morning in the wet. It's going to be super interesting. We know what junior racing's like. 4 laps of the circuit. It's going to be wild. It's going to be, I guess, maybe Oscar Chamberlain for the Aussies. Zoe Baxter should be pretty good. Isabella Carnes, the Australian, be looking good as well. And then Saturday, Sunday, we've got the men's and women's elites. It's going to be amazing. Can't wait to see the racing.
Oh.
And I tell you what, and I'm actually missing Zwift a little bit. I wish I had packed my ergo.
Oh, you should have. You packed all your production gear, which I like, but you should have got the ergo out there as well. They're really heavy though, so I can understand why it was a bit tricky. And also, you seem to be working about 24 hours a day, so I'm not sure when that Zwifting would have happened.
Yes. Well, actually, a couple of years ago, I used to take the WA team over to the junior nationals, and I knew I wouldn't be able to ride very much, so I packed my ergo in a box, and I used to do the ergo on Zwift out on the balcony in the Gold Coast, actually.
Nice.
And the sun would come up on the right hand side and start to cook me at about 7 o'clock, and I was doing an Alp to Zwift attempt, and I got halfway up it. I was on track for a best time, and then my iPad shut down because it was
Too
too
hot.
hot.
Oh, there we
Yes,
go.
yes. But
That's that's a good story, good learning curve, and I hopefully none of you will have to hear this New Zealand accent in the AusCycling next week. I think Katie will be back, and it'll be the Aussie Dream Team again. And but it has been very nice to call these races with you, Jethro. It's been a lot of fun.
yes, yes, and it was so good. 2 weeks in a row, I think we did a pretty good job combining, and we certainly look forward to seeing Katie Bates next week. And it was a pleasure. Thanks for everyone for watching. So good to be with you again, Anna, and we'll see everyone again next week for another round of AusCycling Esports Club Series.